tell me what's going on for you and how could I help?
So I've been studying for about a month or so, a little under a month, and so far so good. The biggest thing I've noticed is the logic games. That seems to be my biggest weakness. Um, Something I've noticed is that I just kind of have a tendency to kind of overlook something that in hindsight was super obvious. And I'm just trying to get it to where I kind of calm down and really focus in so I don't make those mistakes. That seems to be my big thing right now.
Gotcha. Okay. And when are you taking the LSAT?
October 3rd.
Nice. So you got a good amount of time.
Yeah.
And how far along are you in your LSAT journey?
Not very far, just like I said, a little under a month or so.
Okay. And what are you doing in terms of a study regimen? Are you using one of my study plans?
Yeah, I'm using your 5 month plan. In addition, I'm using the super prep guide from the LSAC.
Nice. Nice. So you've got, if you're about 1 month into the study plan, you've gotten a good general overview of a lot of the logic games section.
hmm Oh yeah, definitely.
Good. Yeah. I think more practice, really. You're only 1 month in. Be patient with yourself. It'll come with time.
Good. That's good to know.
But it's also a slog and there's a lot of games out there. And
hmm
so I would encourage you, if you notice that as time goes on, games are a special area of difficulty, I would do more. You have nearly 100 released exams. That's nearly 400 games. And most people have only gone through a fraction of them.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think one of the biggest things I'm trying to figure out is, balancing, like with, I guess the best way to put it is all these practice tests and whatnot that are out there, those tests that you mentioned that have been released. I want to do some of the older ones, but I also want to do some of the newer ones, but I don't want to, use those up, since those are the most in terms of what I can expect in October. So I'm just trying to find that middle ground of sorts.
Yeah, I hear you. And that's something that I do address in the study plan. You'll see as you go forward, I have you start with fairly new exams, but then go back and do older ones and then do the newest ones in the lead up to test day. That's the compromise I've kind of figured out there. So typically for most of my study plans at the moment, I'll have you start with exams 62 to 71. Then for a longer timeline, you could go back and do those in the 40s and 50s. Then as test day approaches, you go ahead and do 70s and 80s.
Right. Okay. No, that makes a lot of sense. I know that's really helpful.
Cool.
I'm actually kind of looking forward to it.
Yeah. And I would also say, if you're concerned about the newer exams, like, because things do evolve over time, another thing you could do is do a handful of the newer ones, just so you get exposed to any slight changes like tough, weird curveball games. That would be the biggest thing you see a lot in 60s, 70s, and 80s, especially more 70s and 80s. And so I have a list of those as well. I could send you for additional practice. Another thing I would think about is saving some of the newest exams for potential retake. And I address that in the schedule too, because if you burn through everything in the 70s and 80s, then if you want to retake in November, you've already used all of that for your October prep.
Right. No, that makes sense. And I was actually thinking about also potentially taking it in November as well, just in addition to October, just so I have multiple scores to go off of.
That's a great idea. I mean, you've only got to stay fresh for another month or so. And through luck alone, you could do a few points better. And then if you study on top of that, you could get even a further increase.
Right. Exactly. And, I'm trying to really aim high, mid to upper 160s or so.
Nice. Yeah, well, it's great that you're allowing the time. I mean, we're speaking now end of May. You've got till October. That's a good 4 or 5 months. You could make anything happen.
Oh, yeah. And, just what I've seen from the study plan, the schedule that I got from you, that I definitely think that those scores are possible as long as I, stick to that plan.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the idea is you're building the foundation, then you're adding timed sections, then full length timed exams.
Exactly. Instead of just kind of, jumping into it and really having no idea what's going on, just kind of getting overwhelmed by everything.
Yeah. And have you heard about the LSAT-Flex?
I've heard about it. Yeah. It's what, 3 sections?
Yeah. So it's 3 sections, not 5, like in person.
Wow. It's going to be interesting to see if, that is what they end up doing in October.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, my thought for you is that at least we can be relatively more hopeful that things will be back to normal by then, and they'll be doing it in person.
Right.
But it's anybody's guess. There is a sliver of a chance it could be flex. Speaking now, I think July is pretty likely to be flex. August is a little bit less likely. As we go further on, it becomes less and less likely. But who knows? It's really anybody's guess.
That's
so
true.
I would keep that flex idea in the back of your mind as a possibility. Just so you're not totally thrown if it does happen, and then they'll announce things and it'll become more clear to all of us as it gets closer. But I wouldn't necessarily assume it's definitely going to be in person on a tablet.
Right. No, that makes sense. And, while it'll be nice, maybe that's the wrong way of phrasing it. While, having only 3 sections and whatnot with the flex, won't be as much of a time drain and whatnot. I think it's still going to be absolutely important to just assume that it's going to be a regular 5-section test and everything, just in case.
Yeah, especially for you and looking towards October, we have every reason to think it will be 5 sections in person for now, because that is quite a bit of time off, and at least some states are already starting to reopen. So we'll see what happens. It could go up and down, of course, but if you prepare for 5 and you only end up having to do 3, you've overtrained and built your endurance more than you needed to. That's not the end of the world. For somebody who is going for July in a month and a half, which will probably be a flex, I'm guessing, for them, I would say maybe do a mix of 3-section and 5-section exams. And if you know that you're definitely doing flex, I would say do 3 sections. Maybe do the occasional 5-section exam, but if you know you're doing flex, prep like game day.
Right. And I guess, in a sense, it's better to over-prepare than under-prepare.
Yeah. No one ever complains about having studied too much when they walk into the test,
Exactly.
What other questions do you have for me? Anything else?
Let's see. I think right now that's about it. Oh, actually, I do have one. So, trying to stick to this study plan and whatnot, the 5-month plan. But of course, life does happen and whatnot. I'm starting work here in a few days, new job. And so what would you say is the best way to kind of adapt in the event, I kind of get off track?
Yeah, sure. Well, let's say you're going for October, your October date remains, but you get busy and you fall behind or you lose a week here or there, that happens. That's real. And that's part of why I build in off days. That's part of why, especially for the 5-month plan, there's extra review weeks and extra weeks where you're just doing time sections because you've already built the foundation, but you don't need to do quite so many full-length exams. And that can also get taxing at times. And so you can just cut some of those weeks in the middle of the schedule, or you could do relatively fewer questions of a given type, and you'll make it up later when you're doing full-length exams anyway.
Right. Okay. No, that's fantastic. I'm really glad that's kind of, built in there.
Life happens. Life happens. We've got to be realistic.
Exactly. Especially right now with all the uncertainty and whatnot.
For sure.
Yeah. But I think that's all I have right now, actually. So
awesome. Well, I'm glad we connected. Keep in touch and let me know if you need anything moving forward.
Will do. And thank you very much.
Thanks for tuning into the show. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already to be notified of new episodes as I release them. And feel free to reach out if you need anything at all as you move forward with your prep. I'm happy to help however I can. In the meantime, I'll wish you all the best and take care.